And welcome everyone to another Smart Money Circle episode. I'm Adam Sarhan. With me today is Aaron Day, who's the CEO at Amaze. Ticker symbol is AMZE. Aaron, thank you so much for taking the time and welcome to the Smart Money Circle.
Hi, Adam. Thanks for inviting me.
It's a pleasure. So, Aaron, I always like to begin. Can you please tell us your story and how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, so I am the CEO and founder of Amaze Software. We launched the company in September 2021. It's a pretty cool story, Adam. I've had a pretty long career, done a few startups, led a couple tech companies into public entities. But in 2019, I was one of the early executives to join Canva, and I'm sure your audience knows Canva very well. But I was in the early days of Canva. Spent a couple years reporting to Cliff, one of the founders of Canva. Great guy, one of the better experiences of my life. And along the way, part of what I was doing was helping Canva integrate into commerce platforms, social media platforms. And as I got to meet more and more companies out there thinking about the next generation of commerce, the next generation of design. The stars aligned, investors came in, and everything worked out to where we launched this company. It was an amazing experience to like just bring it all together, launch it, and then I'll tell you a little bit more about it as we go. But company just took off like a rocket, and really has been a fun story since then. But our mission when we launched the company was, and this is our tagline: allow anyone to sell anything, anywhere with simple tools that connect. And when you think about that and you break it down, we were really motivated to help anyone sell things easier online. In the internet economy, it's still very difficult to sell things for most people, and we just wanted to make it stupid simple. And that was our first thesis, why we started the company, and how we got started in the overall business.
Wow, I love that. So let's talk about the opportunity as a entrepreneur, co-creator, founder. You were at Canva, very successful. You left. A, why? And then B, what was the opportunity that you saw? And that's going to segue to my next question, which is please tell us about your company, what you do, and your competitive advantages.
Okay. So it was a combination of a few things. So Canva was growing rapidly, but we were also living in the time of COVID. So there were some constraints on resources for companies. And Canva was very much moving towards focusing on sort of disrupting Microsoft and disrupting the visual work suite. What I was doing, and my thesis all along was let's bring simple design and commerce into platforms where content's created and communities are built, right? And so what happened was a group of investors who had been investing in some technology that they thought would be relevant one day. It really wasn't an operating platform. It was a group of very wealthy, I'll say what it is, a few retired billionaires. They had been dumping some money in for a few years to this idea of what the next generation of commerce might look like. And through various meetings and opportunities, we came together. And the the real sort of aha moment for us was that if we could simply integrate a commerce engine inside of social media platforms like YouTube and Instagram and Twitch, that we would empower a whole new generation of sellers, of entrepreneurs. And so that was sort of the moment. And and so we raised some money. We raised some money, and we launched the business. And I'll share with you some surprises that came along the way. But it was really this moment where my experience was right, my connections were right, the right money people came together, and there was a big problem to solve. You could feel it everywhere you went. Selling online just wasn't easy enough, right? It was just very complicated, and very costly, so to speak. So.
I love it. And now the company itself, anything messages that you want to send as far as what you do, where's the growth potential, competitive advantages? Let us know anything that you want to talk
Okay.
about as far as potential going forward.
Yeah, so fundamentally, how our business works. So we have three. So when you think about our tagline, our slogan, allow anyone to sell anything anywhere. So let's start with anyone. So we truly mean anyone, and it's probably what we've done the best over the last 3.5 years. So we're integrated with YouTube, we're integrated with Twitch, we're integrated with Discord, we're integrated with Adobe, we're integrated with Linktree, Beacons, all these different TikTok, we're integrated with TikTok, all these different platforms. And what happens in our world is that when anybody, so you've heard the word content creator or the creator economy. So if we break it down a little bit, people use social media to connect with their fans in a way that's a lower cost than paid media, right? So if I'm a small business, if I own a yoga studio, if I own a health and wellness clinic, if I'm some sort of instructor, whatever, it doesn't matter who you are. If I'm a bar, if I'm a restaurant owner,
Right.
um, they go on social media, they start creating content, and they're trying to expand their community. They're looking for that viral moment, right? Well, what the platforms do really well is over the last few years, starting with YouTube, once you get to 500 subscribers in those platforms, a little red button pops up or a little flag pops up and says, "Hey, you're having some success. Would you like to monetize?" And that's that first moment where most people go, "Look, I'm building a community. I'm having some success, and oh, look, YouTube is going to help me monetize." You click that little button, and then you see Amaze. And so millions and millions of people come in, and they see this opportunity, and they're kind of in a couple different buckets. They're either the next generation of entrepreneurs who are creating content about something that they're passionate about, or they're existing small, medium-sized business owners that are trying to build new audiences, right? So they come in and what they see is this very simple way to create an e-commerce store, a social commerce store, a listing of a product, and then drop it back into the product shelf of the social platform. And so if you go onto YouTube, you'll see thousands and thousands of YouTube channels that actually have a store integrated. And the beautiful thing about that now is that I've created an integrated store, or e-commerce, integration into the YouTube product shelf. And now, as I'm creating video in the admin panel of the video, I can actually edit it so the video becomes shoppable, right? And so what's happening is we're making it super easy for anyone to start selling something. There's no upfront cost. They don't have to have supply chain. They don't have to know about distribution. We have integrations with companies like Stripe and PayPal and all these different, so everything's done for them. We call it under the iceberg, all of the supply chain operations is all done for them. So they come in and they start selling. And and to date, we've had over 15 million people in less than 3 years, or a little bit more, little bit less than 3 years, sign up and create stores. Those 15 million people interact with about 1.3 billion visitors every month. So enormous amounts of people coming in, and so we're allowing anyone to sell things. Then we have anyone sell anything, and anything that's a much bigger problem to solve. Thinking about how you bring first party products, custom products, on-demand products, third-party products into these stores, right? So what we've been building and investing in over the last few years is this sort of massive supply chain optimized with tech to bring in products into these stores. Now, this is a fundamental mind shift, and if I can sort of predict what's going to happen, I think in the future is today you have massive online commerce in places like Amazon and Walmart, eBay and places like that. And then you have this next generation of tech like Shopify that's come along and said, hey, let's make selling a bit easier. But what's really happening is you're either aggregating audiences on one big marketplace, or you're simplifying at some level selling individually without that traffic engine. What we're doing is we're thinking about it in a way where we've got the aggregation through the social platforms that have algorithms that accelerate. We've got marketplace coverage, and we've got sort of that viral impact of communities, sort of referring over and over again. So we think that this this anything sort of development is going to grow and grow and grow. And what we're seeing right now, this is the interesting moment in time for us, lots and lots of product companies, lots and lots of third-party brands wanting to get access to our sellers, right? So it's a really interesting time. And then the last piece of it's anywhere. What Amaze does, and this is one of my little my I'll call it my proud babies, my proud tech products, right? That we built, um, is we allow people to drop a simple selling experience in an existing website, email, text, SMS, whatever. So you may not want to build a complete, like, even on your show. Let's say you bring someone in on your show and you have an event going on, and that person says, "Hey, just to commemorate this podcast, let's sell a limited edition T-shirt or hoodie or polo shirt," right? You can use our software within like 30 seconds, drop something into your podcast and start selling it, and then pull it out, right? So we're allowing this anywhere to really expand. And so that's really exciting for us because we're seeing so many new use cases for our software where people are just dropping and selling things all over the place that you would never think about before because it's so easy, right? So that's in a nutshell, what our company does is embed commerce in social media platforms, provide supply chain, and then enhance that sort of business development by allowing them to put that experience in other channels, right? All through integrated tech. So
Love that. Thank you for that explanation. So you're letting creators sell things online without having to worry about going to a third party like Shopify or going finding the suppliers, a fourth party, then a fifth party, then a sixth party. It's just turnkey with you. Is that correct?
that's correct. And you don't have to download any new apps. You don't have to, integrate with any third-party suppliers. Everything is done through our platform.
Sweet. Thank you for that. Okay, how do you handle risk, Aaron? And what are some mistakes you see people make with respect to risk management?
Oh, so I'll break risk into two buckets, Adam. The first risk is people risk, right? It's never an easy thing as a CEO and founder to find the right people. You've got cultural issues, you've got vibe issues, you've got sort of knowledge issues, and so we're constantly thinking about in our company we what we call the vibe of the company, right? And that is something that we're doing daily to think about how we mitigate the risk of having great people become unhappy or having not so great people impact other people, right? So that's a risk mitigation thing that we talk about all the time. On the technology side, it is a very, very rapid changing space, right? And what we do is because we have such a embedded top of funnel, we have so many people coming to us. We mitigate risk with data, and you may hear this quite a bit in your shows, but we have an enormous amounts of data. We're a data powerhouse, right? So every day our data team goes through and they analyze millions and millions of pieces of data, looking for just minute trends of things that we can find. And that typically will give us an indication of where we might see risk in the midterm or short term, that needs our attention right away. And that really is the culture that we're trying to build is let data be sort of the canary in the coal mine for any risk issues that we might deal with, right? And it's not easy. It costs money to do this, but I think going forward, most companies that are in a technology space have to kind of take this approach because it is the most encompassing way to mitigate risk in your business.
Yeah, I love that. So you're making data king, and then you're doing everything else, reverse engineering it, or just doing it based on what the data says. Test
That,
this.
that that's
Great.
correct. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So, Aaron, let's talk about some timeless lessons that you've learned along the way that you'd like to share with the audience.
Oh, that's a great one. So let's talk about the one that's probably the most top of mind right now for most CEOs, sort of that are in my space, my peer class, right? Over the last 3, 4, 5 years, there have been enormous amounts of new tech startups in the creator economy. Um, Depending on your generation, when you grew up, you either understand the creator economy very, very well, or you just know it peripherally, but you'd have to be under a rock not to know about the creator economy today. I mean, it's a massive, $450 billion addressable market. It'll become $1 trillion market in the next couple of years. It's a massive market, right? And nobody really owns the market, right? But what's interesting is that we're in this moment of time right now where the funding cycles of the space are very, very volatile. And it's because there's so many investors that are chasing the red hot trend, and they're not looking at fundamentals, right? They're not looking at what, the Warren Buffett data is what I like to call it, right? And I tell my peers and my friends this all the time. Like, look, if you were to compare us to Shopify or Amazon 3 years into their journey, and you compared our data fundamentals to them, you would be like, holy, look at this company, look what they're doing. But we're constantly chasing. So one of the things that I'm constantly fighting is my desire to pivot towards what's hot, versus really focusing on just the core fundamentals of our business. And it is a really, really challenging time in our space and the creator economy. Just the nature of the creator economy, every day there's somebody surging because they've done something unique with content, right? And so there's this constant pressure, in our space to be the latest and greatest, right? And so, so we are making mistakes daily. We're learning from them. We're growing from them. But really focusing on the fundamentals of scale, platform, addressability. These things that are just so important to building a high value business. That's one area that we spend a lot of time focusing on. The other area is is it's just overall the tech advancements, right? I'm sure you've had some guests on recently that talking about AI. It is really, really easy to get caught up in this AI sort of uh, storm that's happening right now, and lots of positive things happening. We have lots of AI in our business that's developing, but there's also this sort of cultural shift that's happening, that you have to deal with. So we've made a couple mistakes, the last couple of years around AI and our data. But I think what's helping us now is that we've always put data first. And so we're quickly recovering from those things. But I think right now that, you're going to see a lot of CEOs really need mentorship, assistance, guidance, around just how to think about, 1 to 3 year strategy when it comes to AI, right? It's going to be important. You're going to be at a dinner with a bunch of executives with an investment banking partner, and this CEO is going to say, I saved 30% of operating costs because I implemented AI, and everyone's going to go, I got to do it, right? And you just have to have the right resources and the right network to kind of work through it.
I love that. Okay, so as far as the creator economy, anybody watching this show is watching a creator create something. So I didn't start off as becoming a creator, but this is something that I created. So I was told, okay, I'm part of that creator, that 400 billion or trillion, whatever number you said was part of it. So people watching can relate. Anything that they consume that was created by somebody is part of that. Is that correct?
That's correct. And to give you a specific data point, Goldman Sachs says it's a $450 billion economy. You are definitely a creator, Adam. You're in the heart of the space. You're probably in the heart of the most profitable space, by the way, but who knows? Podcasting is a very fast-growing space in the creator economy. So yeah.
I love it. Yeah, I heard Netflix is just adding or going to be adding podcasting to their platform soon, so we'll see. But okay, thank you for that. How about the other side of that, Aaron? Timeless mistakes that either you've made, you see other people make, and how do you learn from them?
Ooh, good question. Um, so I'm gonna tell you what my wife tells me all the time. Um, my my wife will say to me that, you trust too much, that, when someone says they're going to do something, they're going to do it, right? And I know this sounds so basic, right? But when you're the CEO of a tech startup, and you are dealing with so many interested parties, um, you have to get really good at being able to set goals, set big goals, right? Really, I mean, you're only going to attract the right people who set really big goals, but then you've got to trust them to do the work, right? And And when you trust them to do the work, it's not just saying, "Hey, I've hired an amazing person, I promoted an amazing person, I now trust you to deliver and hit these goals." The trust is that they are grown up enough, they're mature enough to basically be able to tell you that, "Hey, I'm having these problems," and so my trust is that the people that we bring into the company, and I've made this mistake many times in my life, have the openness and the confidence to to share with us so we can help them all the problems that they're facing, right? And what I have been perfecting and working on, and it'll never be perfect, but is this culture inside the company where the sooner you can explain a problem, an obstacle, a challenge to your peer group, the better. So that you can establish the trust that when you agree to a goal, you're going to hit it, right? And so I have made so many mistakes in my life by hiring a big name from a big company, hiring an executive from this big Fortune 100 company, bringing them in because I needed to fill this void of a gap in my leadership team or a gap in the experience of our business. And I went out and I hired the right resume, but I didn't bring the right sort of vibe into the company, right? And big mistakes, right? And it's hurt me along the way because as we've scaled, we've counted on some of these people who were very knowledgeable, and sometimes they worked out great, sometimes they didn't. But probably one of the biggest mistakes of my life is just really trying to think about how to bring a group of individuals together that and there's a really good video I saw one time about, how many big pipes can you have in the company, right? If you get two or three good pipes in the company, I think Warren Buffett said this, get three really good pipes in the company that have lots of flow. You've got a great company. If you get four or five, you've got an amazing company. Those pipes are leaders, right? And that's something that we're dealing with all the time in the business. That's honestly, as a CEO and founder, that's my biggest obstacle, my biggest challenge of what I deal with every day. So.
I hear that loud and clear. So let's talk about leadership. What makes a great leader, and what are some lessons you've learned along the way about leadership that you'd like to share with the audience?
Okay, so I have a tendency to think that great leaders have this really unique mix of of 40% control freak, 60% coach. And it's probably going to take a bit of explaining that because the control freak probably is a strong word, right? But when I say control freak, what I mean is that um, I want control of the customer satisfaction. I want control of the user experience. And when I say control, it means I'm relentless about the fact that we have to be amazing. That's why our company is called Amazing, called Amaze, right? We have to, if we introduce our product to you and you don't say in the first 30 seconds, that's amazing, I feel like we failed. So I'm a control freak when it comes to the experience that our leaders have to deliver in the company. So when I lead people, I look for that passion where they are controlling to the point that you have to be amazing, right? You have to be amazing. You have to amaze yourself. You have to amaze your employees. You have to amaze your customers. So that's a fundamental leadership skill set that I look for in every employee we have in the company. On the other side, the coaching piece, right? Now, we're not a 5,000 employee company. We're not a 10,000 employee company. We're about 100 employees between employees, contractors, and stuff like that. We're a smaller company. And so um, the leadership thing that I look for at this size in time in the company is this player coach mentality, but this coaching mentality, because coaches coaches at one time were players, a lot of them, most of them, and they still have this eagerness to play, but they also want to coach, right? And so trying to find that right coaching mentality of like, hey, let me help you, let me show you how to throw this pitch, let me show you how to catch this ball, let me work with you on that. So I'm looking for that personality trait at this time in the company. Now, you probably heard from many people, Adam, that one of the most difficult times in a company's growth pattern is going from 100 to 200, right? It's a very difficult time because now you have to bring in more process, and you bring in a different skill set. But even still, what I've learned when I was at Canva and the previous, I was the CEO of this company called Trend. We had over 2,000 employees. My model worked. Finding that person who's ultra passionate, controlling about experience and loves to coach, right? That's what I'm looking for.
Love that. So let's talk about adversity. Aaron, how do you handle adversity and what are some obstacles that you had to overcome along the way?
So let's talk about current adversity, and we're going to call it Reddit. We're going to call it Reddit. So Reddit is the adversity channel of 2025, and so what's happening in the world today that creates adversity is that in the creator economy, there's a segment of creators who make their living on finding and attacking companies in a very toxic way, and it's how they exist. So 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 we are dealing with all these things today with these new channels of media. Look, you might look back in time and say some of the magazines and tabloids of the time were the same kind of concept, like, can we go out and run a smear campaign on someone like that. But there's these new challenges and difficulties in the world right now where even if you have a pure goal and you want to help people and you're trying to really solve problems for people, you realize that there's a whole economy out there of people creating conflict, right? And it's not slowing down, Adam. And so as more and more CEOs make the move to running public companies, you've got the investor scrutiny and you've got the business scrutiny and all the things you're dealing with. But now you have these new channels of scrutiny that were never there before that are just expanding rapidly. And there's a sense of culture that's changing, right? Like when in my generation probably would have said, "Hey, that's a little bit too much. That's a little bit over the top." Now, over the top is good in these platforms, right? And so controversy and challenges and some of the things that we're dealing with today require us to think about new ways of dealing with some of these platforms that just weren't there before, right? And it's complicated and it's emotional, and you just have to really, really slow down and think about, does it help? Does it hurt? How do you handle these things? Because you'll find, I'm sure, in your world, there's competitors to your podcast. They may go out and hire somebody on Reddit just to go blast you, that has never even worked with you before because they're gaining an audience by just being negative about you, right? So there's a whole new layer of stuff that we're dealing with as CEOs and a whole new set of conflicts that we're dealing with today. And that's really where our business today is growing. We're helping so many people create. We're helping produce the next generation of entrepreneurs. I love my job. I love what we do because every day all over the world I get some email from somebody saying, "You just helped me double my revenue. You helped me double my income," right? So we're building entrepreneurs, and there's this natural feel good moment, but then there's the other side of things that you deal with that create lots of conflict that we're dealing with today. So
So let's talk about, sorry, two things. So the one first thing you mentioned, which was the haters online. I just had Grant Cardone on the show, and he literally said the exact same thing. In fact, he went from not liking the haters to embracing the haters because he's like, if no one's hating on you, then you haven't made it. You're invisible. So he learned to embrace the haters because he had all like everything you're saying. Literally, he just told me 2 days ago.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, how do you handle the actual adversity? Do you ignore the haters? Do you engage with the haters? Do you just some other approach? I mean, what's the actual way of dealing with the adversity? Because we know adversity happens, and my question is, how do you deal with it?
Yeah, so I saw Trump speak last night, and one of the things he said was, "I don't like permanent enemies," right? And he was talking about Iran, and it resonated a bit with me because you just are going to see a growth in haters because it's an economy today. It's an economy. It's a business today, and it's much more scalable. And so I don't know if I have an answer yet. I think Grant's probably right. You have to embrace them. But you have to also be prepared that as you embrace them, it scales, it escalates, right? And so you have to have a culture of emotional intelligence. I mean, we meet once a week in my company, and talk about just how to deal with the haters. Um, and new employees will come in and say, "Well, this person, they've never even worked with our company before. They're saying this or that, right?" And you just look at them, calm down. It's okay. And then, but he's probably right, but it takes a lot of energy, Adam. It takes a lot of energy to do it, right? So, yeah,
Yeah, just to clarify, he didn't say engage with them. He just said embrace them, meaning they're there, but
yeah,
don't let them stop you. So he didn't say go and do this with them or butt heads or any of that kind of stuff. And just to be very clear, he's just like, hey, listen, they're there. And if you use it as fuel, it's a good thing. Let the haters hate and
yeah.
then let the money pile up, like Kanye West and 50 Cent used to say way back when.
Yeah.
So
So Adam, it's funny because if you think about my business, right?
uh,
Even if you're a hater and you're building a community, you still might want to monetize by selling some product on your site, right? So there's this little bit of karma that if we play this right, even those people, because they're integrated on the platforms, right? Even those people might end up using our platform, right? So
right?
you kind of have to think success may win that battle, right? So yeah.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Okay. Aaron, final question for you. What is the best piece of advice you'd like to give the audience or your 30-year-old self?
Um, I would tell you energy. Okay, this is my actually let me give you two, right? And I think one of them is relevant over the last couple of years, and then my overall favorite theme is come at life with energy, come at your business with energy. If you can't do something else, right? I mean, come at you're going to make money, you're going to have success in life if you come at things with energy, right? And it's a big topic of mine. I love it. I can tell when the energy of my company flows the wrong way. I can tell when the energies of some of my leaders flow the wrong way. Just really focus on what optimizes the energy, the output that you produce, and your spirit, your vibe, how you're feeling about things. It's really critical, right? You're going to produce success, right? There's so many ways today to be successful, if you just get that energy quotient right. The other thing I would tell you is be a bridge builder. Um, every new employee has a meeting with me. We make every employee do what we call an amazing story. They tell us their life, and then I tell them a story about being a bridge builder, connecting people through bridges, uh, building partnerships. It's always going to help you in life, right? And if you're 30 years old and you're focused on building partnerships and bridges and connections, when you're 40 years old, you're going to have thousands of them. When you're 50 years old, you're going to have millions of them, right? It's so critical in this day and age, that you go at life, as a bridge builder versus versus something that just isn't as connected, right? It's critical, right? You have to be connected in this world, right? So
Absolutely love it. Well, Aaron, thank you so much. We'll have the website in the description and hopefully we'll have you on again soon. Congrats on all the success.
thanks, Adam. Appreciate it.